it's quite literally a Star Wars Memorial Day weekend because, we just had The Mandalorian and Grogu come out this weekend. I'm going to talk about Star Wars tonight on the Reviewing Network Talks About. And then today on All Days, we are talking about a Star Wars movie. It's like everything is fully connected, just like the Force. But, or it's just a natural coincidence here. But, welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. It's December 16th, 2016, the week before Christmas, because next week will be Christmas. Well, next Saturday and Sunday will be Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But, yeah, we're talking about three big new releases, starting, of course, off with the biggest of them all, and that is, of course, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the first spin-off of the Star Wars franchise under Disney since they bought them a couple years ago and got everyone excited with The Force Awakens. So this time we have a story that's taking place right before the events of A New Hope, where you have Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, who's a rebellion soldier and criminal, who's about to experience her biggest challenge yet when Mon Mothma, played by, I don't remember who plays her, but she sets her out on a mission to steal the plans for the Death Star. With help from the rebels and Master Swordsman and non-allied forces, Jyn will be in for something bigger than she thinks. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't go into this with the high expectations that I had when I first walked into Star Wars, mostly because the trailers, while great, they weren't as epic or as grandiose as The Force Awakens ones were. I mean, I could still watch that trailer for The Force Awakens and get goosebumps every time I watched it. I went here expecting a good movie, and what I saw, honestly, might be one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time, up there with The Force Awakens and Empire Strikes Back, because, yeah, this movie was pretty friggin' awesome, man. Now, I'll honestly say this. It does start off slow, like, really slow. Like, the first act of this movie isn't god-awful, but it certainly isn't as strong as the rest of the movie is, mostly because you don't really get invested into the characters that well, because the film doesn't really explain their backstories all that well at first. Not even with Jyn Erso, and she gets more backstory than anybody else in this movie. It's not until we get to the second act, where the whole team is coming together, where the movie really does begin to pick up. This is kind of like the equivalent of Suicide Squad, except instead of the bunch of DC villains, it's a bunch of people who are fighting for the rebellion, and did it a whole lot better than Suicide Squad did. So, some more complaints I have towards the film. Before we talk about all the good stuff, Forrest Whitaker's character in this movie is kind of pointless. Like, Bryan Cranston's character in Godzilla was, which coincidentally, guess who directed this movie? The same man who directed Godzilla, Gareth Edwards. He's only in this movie for a total of 15 minutes at the most, and he's only there to essentially be the magical, mystical Negro character of the film. And he's a character from the Clone Wars TV series, Saw Gerrera. And I'm sorry, you don't hear it in that trailer there, but that raspy voice was just getting to me too much to take seriously at all. He just comes off as a pointless character, except to just get out exposition. That trailer makes it seem like he's much more of an important character than he actually is in the finished product. So, but then again, there were reshoots on this. I'll touch on that in just a second here. But Ben Mendelsohn, who's also a really good actor, plays the antagonist in the film, Orson Krennic, and I thought he was way too over the top in this. Like, Kylo Ren worked well for being over the top in Force Awakens as the bad guy, because he blended those over-the-top moments where he's like having a mental breakdown or when he's not getting his way that were actually funny, and a more serious and in-tone backstory to him. And here, Krennic is just evil because he's evil. There's no real backstory to him, and you never take this guy seriously as a threat. And I was kind of annoyed that they threw in the random brief C-3PO and R2-D2 cameo that they had in here, because it just felt like they were throwing that in at the last minute during those reshoots. Again, I'll touch on that in just a second here, but besides that, everything else about this movie was pretty good. I liked Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso. She doesn't quite reach the levels of Rey or Leia in terms of great female Star Wars characters, but she's perfectly fine. Diego Luna, Riz Ahmed, Diego Luna, of course, will get a chance to really show his character off in Andor in a couple of years' time, which is probably one of the best Star Wars shows they've ever done. Donnie Yen was really good in this. Mads Mikkelsen, Alan Tudyk, Jaeon Wynn. There's a lot of good people in this cast here. The visual effects overall were really good. The fact that they were not only able to bring back Peter Cushing as Grand Moffat Tarkin, who had been dead for 22 years up to this point, but they made him look completely realistic and in check with the storyline. But that wasn't the only amazing thing that they did there with this, and I'll touch on that again later on. The action sequences overall are really good. We finally get to see the wars elements of Star Wars movies here, as the final act is nothing but the rebels going up against the Empire to get to the Death Star plans, and it's all badass action all around. And then you gotta get to Darth Vader, once again played by James Earl Jones. He's been in most of the recent trailers, because he came in during the reshoots for this. And I'll tell you, he's only in the movie for about a total of 4 minutes, but man, do they make those 4 minutes absolutely worth it. Darth Vader returns to that badass villain he was when you first saw A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and those 3 prequels basically turned him into a pussy at that point. I mean, pussified him to a T. James Earl Jones gives it his all in this movie. He is so sinister and so evil. You could tell that Earl Jones is just loving every moment of this role. The greatest scene in the movie, which is a reshoot scene done by Tony Gilroy of the Bourne films. You know, that great scene where, you know, it's supposed to tie into the beginning of A New Hope, and you see these soldiers coming in, and you see this black room, and then all of a sudden that red lightsaber comes out from Darth Vader, and you see these guys screaming at the top of their lungs as they're getting killed. It's just like, that whole shot alone will make you so giddy as a schoolgirl alone on that alone. I remember the first time I saw that, I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, this is amazing. But it brings me to the best aspect about this movie, and the reason why this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. It did a better job as a prequel film than any of the George Lucas prequels did. It really did an excellent job setting up everything from the opening to A New Hope, right down to Carrie Fisher being digitized to look exactly like she does in A New Hope. This is everything we wanted to see in those prequels, but never got. And it's also bittersweet, too, because I believe this was the last thing that we saw Carrie Fisher in before she died. It was either this particular December or the next December. In fact, I should probably check first. Yeah, she died 11 days after this movie first came out. I mean, talk about just unusual timing there. But man, they did a pretty good job with her in this particular film. And you know, you wonder why they did those reshoots early in the year. I think they did it mostly not only to bring in some more lighter moments into this, but also to better set up the story as it connects to the opening of A New Hope better. And if that's the case, I thought they did a pretty good job with it overall. Yeah, after a rocky start with Rogue One does get going into high gear once we get to the action overall. But not only that, the acting is good, the comedy is good, the drama is good. You have some really good music by Michael Giacchino. There's a great bevy of new characters, the return of a legendary badass. I mean, it's everything you could possibly ask for a Star Wars film and then some. And it just kind of essentially proves the point that Disney buying Star Wars was probably the greatest thing that could happen to this franchise at this point. It's a really good movie. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. One of the best movies of the year. And enjoy it because the following year, that's when the shit literally hits the fan. I could throw in the clip from Airplane where the shit literally hits the fan, but, you know, copyright possible copyright claim problems. But, so, in contrast to, in the complete opposite direction of Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, here's a movie that, I'll be honest, when I saw this next movie on here, and I gave it a 0-star review originally when I first saw it, I didn't remember much about Collateral Beauty, but then I watched the trailer again, and yeah, those bad memories are starting to come back.
To you, this profound connection to everything.
Will Smith, Collateral Beauty, rated PG-13.
Oh my god, can you be any more begging for an Academy Award? Like, I thought 7 pounds and concussion were the worst things you could do, Will Smith, but Jesus Christ, that was unbearable. And you know what the funniest part about this whole thing is? Well, I'll save that for when we get to the actual review here, but Will Smith stars as a successful New York advertising executive suffering from a great tragedy. He retreats from life. While his concerned friend tried desperately to reconnect with him, he seeks answers from the universe by writing letters to love, time, and death, and mailing them. What seems therapeutic brings unexpected results when the residents respond in person. By the way, that's not the actual plot of the movie. Let me tell you what the actual plot of the movie is. Will Smith plays an ad executive who lost his daughter who died and is depressed, but his co-workers care more about their job futures than his mental state. So they decided to hire actors to play love, time, and death, considering that he writes to these three, and then they are going to try to convince his bosses that he's fucking crazy by digitally deleting the actors to make it seem like he's talking to nobody and he'll get fired. I wish I was kidding, but no. That is the actual plot of this movie. I hate this movie so much. Those memories I had from when I first saw this are coming back, and they are not good. I hated this movie. This is one of the biggest fuck yous of movie making I have ever seen in my entire life. There is absolutely nothing of value in this movie whatsoever. This is a gigantic clusterfuck of a movie. Where do you even begin? Let's talk about the plot. They thought that getting a grieving Will Smith fired will cause them to have their jobs be secured. That's not a plot for a serious drama. That's a plot for a dark comedy. Not a whimsical drama that's supposed to be heartfelt and emotional when all it is these sick delusions of a terrible screenwriter. Which, seriously, why does Alan Loeb keep getting work? This is made by the same writer that made some of the worst movies of the decade. Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, Just Go With It, The Dilemma, Here Comes the Boom. He has never written a good movie, and this is his worst. This guy wrote 3 Happy Madison movies. 3 of them! 3 of them. I know it's 6, but here, 3. Let's just go with 3. There we go. I'm Shakira flabbergasted right now by this whole thing. If you don't know what that reference is, just look up Shakira flabbergasted and you'll see where I got that from. But on top of that, what a waste of a good cast in this movie. Like, Will Smith, Edward Norton, Kate Winslet, Michael Pena, Helen Mirren, Keira Knightley, Jacob Lattimore, Naomi Harris. All wasted on such a lazy script. The director, David Frankel, the guy who directed The Devil Wears Prada, is too good for this. Like, he should have looked at the script and gone, no, I'm not doing this. Like, the biggest problem with this movie is the emotional manipulation this movie has. And you know what? I'm going to do something. I'm going to steer away from this movie for a second. Trust me, I have a point to this. I want you to take a look at this clip here from an Xfinity commercial that was playing all over the holiday season. There's a point to this, but yeah. The ad had been getting on my nerves since it aired, and I hate it. I want you to take a look at this. There's going to be a point to this. Trust me.
I'm going to my grandma's house where there's no on-demand, no Netflix, and no Wi-Fi. Sad face.
What does she mean?
I don't know. She means that we're not up to date.
Really? Ooh, look at that.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal!
Okay, there is so much wrong with that ad altogether. First of all, the grandparents are obviously not that old-fashioned if they know how to work a cell phone, or know what a hashtag is, or hell, know what a Twitter account is. Second, how the hell does a cable company put together a system that quickly? Have you ever seen a cable company put a system together that fast? You're lucky if you're home in time for the cable guy to even show up to set your service up. If not, they just leave you a note that says, hey, we'll try it again tomorrow. Third, a little nitpick. The grandfather says, Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, into the remote, and automatically the first Home Alone comes up on screen. That's not a line from the first Home Alone. That's the line from Home Alone 2. The actual line is, keep the change, you filthy animal. And also, of all the lines you can use from Home Alone, you went with that one. What about, you guys give up, or you're thirsty for more, or look what you did, you little jerk, or Kevin! Like, there are so many lines in the original Home Alone that are much more quotable than Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, from the sequel that's not as good as the first movie. But the biggest problem with the ad is that it's the ultimate form of mass commercialism with Christmas. The only reason these grandparents even did this was because their bratty-ass grandkids talk shit on Twitter, and you basically just give in to their demands of their bratty-ass grandkids. Because they apparently can't do anything but play on their phones instead of actually, talking and hanging out with your family on Christmas. The ad also says that your Christmas will suck if you don't get with the times and get cable and Wi-Fi internet, because clearly that's what Christmas is all about. Not family, but watching TV and playing with your phone. No. You know why Eaton Park and Fruity Pebbles and Hershey Kisses and Folgers have Christmas commercials we watch every year? Because they don't tell you that if you don't buy our product, Christmas will be ruined. This commercial does. It's trying to be emotionally manipulating so you'll buy their product and make your holidays better. No. It's bad emotional manipulation being used to sell a terrible product. Much like this movie, Collateral Beauty doesn't work as much as a movie because it's trying to make you feel emotional and sad for all these heartless, soulless, and cruel people in this movie. This is, without a doubt, one of the worst movies of the year, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. There's absolutely nothing good about this movie. It's a bad Lifetime Channel movie, blown up for the big screen and featuring way bigger stars that should know better than this. Like, Will Smith should have just gave up on his chances of winning an Oscar, because you know what? He'll never get it if he keeps making bullshit like this. But then again, he didn't, because 5 years later he'd be accepting the Oscar for King Richard, and even then he fucked it up by slapping Chris Rock over a stupid G.I. Jane joke, which wasn't even that funny to begin with. I still blame both Will Smith and Chris Rock on that front, but I hate emotional manipulative bullshit. It's one of the things I really hate about films and television altogether, because it's not authentic. It's not real. You're trying to get a cheap emotion out of people, and it just doesn't work. such is the case in this movie. I hate this movie. Fuck this movie to the core. It is one of the worst movies you'll see this year in 2016. Guaranteed. It is that bad of a movie. And yeah, those bad memories I had from watching this for the first time just came back to haunt me again. That's how bad this movie was. We need a palate cleanser, and boy do we have a really good palate cleanser. Denzel Washington's latest film, and that is the adaptation of August Wilson's Fences.
Well, I've been standing with you. I've been right here with you, Troy.
Paramount, as much as I love to see that speech that essentially won Viola Davis the Academy Award, calling that a TV spot is not the thing you want to call this, because there was nothing about the rating or when the movie was coming out. Just saying. I mean, come on, man. I'm trying not to get copyright claimed on this, which this video probably still will, but regardless, this is Fences. This is Denzel Washington's latest directorial effort based off of the Pulitzer Prize-winning play by August Wilson. Features, as you see, Viola Davis giving an Oscar-caliber performance, which did eventually lead to her winning the Best Supporting Actress Oscar the following March. And in this movie, Troy Maxson, played by Denzel Washington, makes his living as a sanitation worker in 1950s Pittsburgh. August Wilson, of course, was from Pittsburgh, so that's why it's placed there. Maxson once dreamed of becoming a professional baseball player, but was deemed too old when the major leagues began admitting black athletes. Bitter by his own missed opportunities, Troy creates further tension in his family when he squashes his son's chances to meet a college football recruiter. The whole movie essentially really is unchanged from the original play by August Wilson. He essentially wrote a film version of this before he died 11 years ago, before this movie came out. He died in 2005, but he completed the screenplay before his death. I mean, he had the hopes he could get this made before his death, but obviously that never happened. And this is exactly the same thing you would expect to see if you saw the play on a theater stage, except in an actual movie. And I really enjoyed this movie. It's such a great adaptation to a really solid story. Denzel Washington does a very good job of bringing the story to the big screen in the best way he could do, and he gives another terrific performance as Troy. But it's Denzel Washington. Like I said, he's the greatest entertainer we have out there right now. He's the greatest actor we have out there. Yeah, the greatest actor out there. But yeah, to me, he's the greatest actor we have out there. But yeah, Viola Davis does give an Oscar-worthy performance as his wife in this. Jovan Edipo gives a solid acting feature film debut as his son. The direction by him is really good too. It feels like you're watching a play being brought to the big screen and set up in real life. And I thought the cinematography overall by Charlotte Bruce Christensen was really good, as well as the music by Marcelo Zarvos. It does a good job of bringing August Wilson's play to life in a feature film, and Washington, once again, knocks it out of the park. He does a good job of honoring the story, bringing it unchanged, and having it led by a great performance by him, as well as a strong cast, good drama, good script, good music, great cinematography. It's a really good movie. It's definitely one of the highlights of the year, and another winner for Denzel Washington. It's easily, I think, his best film overall as a director. This really is the best thing he's ever directed. It's one that, if you have not seen Fences, it's one I highly recommend checking out. It's definitely worth it. Fences is definitely a must-watch. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and we get a lot of the awards contenders coming out on Christmas Day. Yeah, I've been complaining about the fact that we haven't gotten too many of the big awards contenders. They've just been, sporadic over the course of the last couple of months, but Christmas weekend is the one where they just decided to dump them all out there. But before you get to those, you get some of the bigger holiday tentpole releases, such as the latest film from Illumination, and one of their biggest surprises, honestly, one of their best overall film series, Sing, comes out this weekend. We have Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt starring in the sci-fi adventure Passengers, which you think would be good with the two of them involved in it, and we'll talk about it. It's not as good as you would think it would be, but certainly isn't one of the worst things ever. But no, that's for 20th Century Fox, who had a double whammy this weekend with Bryan Cranston, James Franco starring in the comedy Why Him from John Hamburg, who was once a reliable filmmaker, but then he made garbage like Why Him. And yet another bad video game adaptation, this time Michael Fassbender starring in Assassin's Creed. Then we get to 20th Century Fox hitting a whammy with their third movie, the old saying, the third time's the charm, and yeah, their third overall release of the weekend was their best overall film. Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer, and Janelle Monáe starring in Hidden Figures from the director of St. Vincent. Peter Berg with his second big movie, with his newest film from Mark Wahlberg, Patriots Day. I was gonna say his second big movie with Peter Berg, because actually, did he do Deepwater Horizon? I don't think he did. I thought he did. He did do Deepwater Horizon. I could have sworn he did. I got it confused for a second. But, yeah, Peter Berg had Mark Wahlberg in two movies released in 2016. Needless to say, Deepwater Horizon was the better of the two movies, but Patriots Day, not bad, but it's a movie about the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, one of two movies they made. The first one coming out here, but then we also have Martin Scorsese's latest film, Silence, with Andrew Garfield among the cast. And we have Ben Affleck's, the long-awaited Ben Affleck follow-up to Argo as a director, Live by Night. And a very underrated movie from Juan Antonio Bayona, A Monster Calls, with Liam Neeson among the voice cast in this. And yeah, so that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 movies to take a look at. The last, and I think these are, well, technically not the last movies for 2016, because there's still 2 movies for, there's still a couple films for the last weekend of the year. Not many. In fact, let me check something real quick. Now, actually, these 9 films could count as the last official films we'll talk about in 2016 on the next episode, and then we'll save the last weekend of 2016 for the leftovers episodes for 2016, the movies that were other films that I should have talked about, but we'll save for that. But, yeah, this next one here should be the last weekend of movies released on a specific weekend in 2016 that we'll talk about. 9 movies. We will touch on all of them tomorrow on the show, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episodes we did. So, with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.